point to follow along on that list. They're not in any particular order. It's the first piece of legislation that a lot of stakeholders in the state had watched because it had been considered over many General Assemblies is the Marijuana Control Act. There was two bills related to marijuana, one of them dealing with the criminal side and the other one dealing with the ability to establish marijuana activities. The one that the county is concerned about is this one, HB2, which establishes legal marijuana activities including cultivation facilities, product manufacturing, testing, and retail stores. Interestingly, in the bill that passed, a municipality is allowed to prohibit marijuana operations within its town limits. And you can see already some towns in Sussex County have taken action to do just that. However, counties were not afforded that ability. And in particular, there was language in the bill that said a county may enact ordinances that do not conflict with any regulations established by this act, including governing the time, place, manner, and number of operations within the county's jurisdictions. So that clearly tells us that these types of facilities will be allowed in the unincorporated county areas. We've asked our legal staff to take a look at the bill and come back to council with a report on just what could be done if you have concerns related to marijuana facilities that could be established within the county jurisdiction. So I anticipate seeing that in the weeks to months to come. The good news is we have over a year until this will be enacted, so there is time for us to prepare. Next bill was House Bill 62, reassessment. You can see in the screen the yellow letters tells you the status of this bill. This bill passed and is ready for governor action or governor's signature. This is something we worked on. They actually incorporated language that Ms. Jennings requested, establishing the time periods for reassessment. This requires all three counties to reassess in the same sequence of 5 years, and the language that Ms. Jennings assisted with created the period in which they will reassess, which starts on the date that a county board of assessment adopts the certification of the completion of a general assessment. As you know, there's several parts of Delaware Code that still need addressing. We're going to work on that next General Assembly as we wrap up our reassessment and begin the tedious aspect of that, which includes the appeal process for reassessment. Senate Bill 120 involving realty transfer tax was enacted. This expands the categories of the use of RTT and includes now, for the purposes of workforce and affordable housing programs. This was a bill that Senator Buxton put forward and received support and was eventually enacted. So it just adds to the categories that all three counties can use for the use of RTT. House Bill 72, bidding thresholds, ready for governor's action. This aligns each of the county's government's contracting thresholds to match the state of Delaware's thresholds. All three counties had different thresholds, or some had the same, didn't align with the states. This took all of that and put it in one bucket. Do you want to say anything about that, Ms. Jennings?
Sure. The other two counties, some of their thresholds were in Title IX, some of it was in 29. Ours were in Title IX. So we cleaned that all up, moved everything to Title 29, where all of our procurement is located in the state code. And this helps with inflation, things like that. The state constantly is changing their bidding thresholds. Ours was stagnant at 50,000. So now we have the opportunity. We just follow what the state does and what their procurement does up there in Dover.
Okay. That was a house cleaning bill, really, and it just made for the contracting environment in the state to be aligned. House Bill 127, the fire protection fee, was reported out of committee. This is a bill that affects all three counties, providing each county with the ability to impose a fire protection fee if the council so chooses by enacting their own ordinances. The Representative Baumbach, the sponsor of this bill, did decide to delay this bill because the three counties went together to create a sustainability study, which Newcastle County is ushering out. It's actually on the street as we speak. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but the sustainability study will study the fire service statewide to see what the financial condition is of the fire service and the ambulance companies. Right now, that package is, like, as I said, on the street, and we expect to get proposals in and then eventually make a selection on who will usher that through. I don't.
Quick question.
Certainly.
If you're finished.
Go ahead.
Has Kent County agreed to participate?
In the study? So what we decided to do, the answer is maybe. They want to see the proposals when they come back and then see exactly what proposals we have and how much they're going to cost. The good news is the state put $300,000 in epilogue for funding for this. So hopefully that will help bring the cost down for all three counties. It was drafted in a way, go ahead, Ms. Jennings, that helps Kent County. Go ahead.
Correct. So originally, it was all Newcastle County, then we added ours, Sussex County as the second level, and then Kent County as the third. And then we reworded the RFP to say the counties can opt out, but your bid includes A, B, and C. And then we have the option to opt out once we see the bids.
Are we able to review the RFP or the scope of the study?
Absolutely.
Who's the we you're talking about? I guess.
Yeah, it's on the street
It's on the
as
street.
we speak.
You go on Newcastle County website online. Yeah.
We can provide a copy.
I'm challenged.
I understand. I understand.
Okay. This next bill also had a legacy to it. Senate Bill 186, Volunteer School Assessment. It did pass this General Assembly. This is a bill that started last session with Senator Hansen, and then with the election of Senator Huxtable really took the reins on this initiative, and it ended up being a unique bill for just Sussex County. It provides the county with the ability to establish, again, by ordinance, county council ordinance, a volunteer school assessment for residential development. That's major subdivisions only. That's not single-family homes. If a VSA is established in Sussex, the county council then may require the applicant to provide certification from the Department of Education that the school district has adequate capacity for the proposed development. In the other parts of the state where the VSA is already enacted, what that means is they charge a per unit voluntary school assessment. They assess on a per unit basis an amount of money that the developer pays as it relates to the impact on that school system. Something we don't do in Sussex. The county and the county council didn't really ask for this, but they saw fit to bring it forward. Again, it will require another step, which includes you, county council, enacting an ordinance that would allow you to take or to ask for certification from the DOE.
And is that a one-time cost?
It is a per unit cost established by the Department of Education, and then as the units are brought online, so if it's a 100-unit subdivision, you're going to be charged per unit 100 times.
And that's by district, though, right?
It's by district. The money's collected by the DOE, and then the Department of Education, and then it will be issued to the district that it was collected in. So if it was a subdivision in the Indian River School District, then the Indian River School District gets that funding.
So DOE is just a pass-through?
It is. And the council really, at some point, is just the gatekeeper on whether or not the development has an impact on the district and whether or not you want to request DOE to ask for certification if there is capacity in that school district.
Now, how do you establish how much?
Department of Education does that, and I do not know the formula for how that's established.
Because each school district is going to be drastically different income-wise.
Income-wise and activity-wise.
Yes.
In this county, we see a lot of the activity on the eastern side of the county, which impacts only a few districts. Where there's activity on the western side, is not as much. They're not going to see this have much impact at all on them.
Okay, thank you.
I think this will really generate some conversations between the superintendents when they learn of this and whether or not they feel that their school districts have the capacity.
They already know it.
Yeah. You've been contacted.
I'm getting it, yeah.
Okay. Any other? This is one of those deals where they got the legislation from another territory, cut and pasted it, and then introduced it in Delaware. Another red flag for me is the fact that the counties would be required to establish buffer requirements inside town limits if that town doesn't have an MS4 permit. This requires an applicant that's seeking a permit with DENREC, and this reference to Title VII of Del Code, Section 6003, is the all-encompassing section that gives DENREC the authority to issue permits. So if you are doing business and you need a DENREC permit, and you're doing that in an underserved community or within 3 miles of an underserved community, you are going to have to comply with this new requirement, which they're calling community outreach. Those activities include identifying a facility community liaison, sending a mailer to all residents in the area, hosting one community meeting, and publishing the meeting info in at least one newspaper. The information you gather then goes into a report that you submit to DENREC as part of their permit review process. And I am taking for dealing with for fire foam.